Maritime Matters is brought to you live by Bahamas Maritime Connection.
What is maritime?
Maritime, simply put, relates to navigation or commerce on the high seas.
Some say money makes the world go round. I say ships move the money that make the world move.
Who navigates those large international ships?
How often are international ships required to be surveyed and inspected?
Maritime also protects our seas and borders by way of our local Bahamas Defense
It is
Force.
very sad to say that out of 1,500 plus ships that are registered under the Bahamian flag, only a very small amount of Bahamians are employed.
Maritime Matters.
Hey, guess what today is? Well, you know today is Tuesday. Oi! And it's time for Captain Glenn. Are you ready on? So everyone, let's gather around. Cause Maritime Matters. He's a native of Andros. Say what? But he grew up in Nassau. Sail around the Bahamas, all around, with the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. Hey! Well, you know today is Tuesday. Oh yeah. And it's time for Captain Glenn. Let's do any boy. So everyone, let's gather around your radio. Cause Maritime Matters. Hey! Well, you know today is Tuesday. Say what? And it's time for Captain Glenn. So everyone, let's gather. Cause Maritime Matters.
Everybody gather. Woo, to Maritime Matters. Maritime Matters. It's a Tuesday, my friend. It is another Tuesday. And if it's a Tuesday, you know the deal. It's Maritime. Tick, 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 tick. Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. We're coming to you live, ladies and gentlemen, via Love 97 FM studio. We encourage that if you're driving and tune in with us, please do so cautiously and ensure to take your time in getting wherever it is you are trying to get safely. As the saying goes, drive to arrive alive. You know, we've been having some crazy accidents, and you know, we've been having some excessive heats. I mean, heat like never before. Anybody been on that heat today? I know a lot of you are in the heat right now. Because as I was coming to the studio, I was like, how do we do it? Because my car air conditioner wasn't on. Times I turn my air conditioner on and put in this kind of heat, man, I get unreached where I going. Now, so heat that big, right? And we ain't got a bunch of traffic on the road like we used to this time of the day when school opened. But what we got is heat on top of heat on top of heat. And with all that heat, some people still say, oh, this global warming thing is a hoax. Boy, I don't know where they live in. Anyway, our sponsors for the night show. Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited. That's us. That's BMC. And, of course, 101 Pharmacy and Island Care Pharmacy. For all your medication needs, check out my little cousin, Shantia Healed McBride and her lovely team at 101 Pharmacy in Nassau and Island Care Pharmacy up there in our second city of Freeport. Fill your prescription at the store or send your refills via the online site 1on1pharmacy.com. That's all one word, all lowercase, 1on1pharmacy.com. Good night, Auntie May, my number one fan up there in Freeport. Boy, that's my Auntie May up there. You know, she's 93 years old, people. 93 years old and going strong. Strong. And, of course, strong. Continue to do your thing, Auntie May. Over a century, here we come. Boy, this one woman, one Bahamian woman that I know is definitely going to pull that century. And Auntie May, don't worry. When you look behind, you can see plenty of us trying to reach up there. All we can do is keep coming, Auntie May. We're trying to stay in your wake. We're trying to do what you do. That's my my good old Annie Mae, my number one fan. You know, she's break down Maritime Matters every week, and she's called me and say, Glenn, you talk about this. Glenn, you talk about that. I say, oh, Annie Mae, I don't know how you, Annie Mae, you getting on, but she ain't easy. I can tell you that. This past Independence Day period was a most challenging one for me and also for our nation. Death unleashed its wrath in many unfortunate but memorable ways. The news of my good friend, my neighbor, I used to call him my little bro because he used to call me his big bro. That's Irv Muff Roll. And you know, Muff called the show on numerous occasions. And he called the show to give me support because he know how his big brother go. We just call it out as we see it. And he's called many other shows. And anybody who listens to talk radio in this country would know about Muff Roll. You know, Muff Roll succumbed to a massive heart attack a few weeks back. And then this same past weekend, we laid to rest my schoolmate and an extraordinary tanker truck driver at Esso for many, many years, Mr. Badet Cartwright. Good man. If you know him, you love him. He succumbed to a car crash, injuries in North Andros, while he was on vacation. And that was a very, very sad, another very, very sad ordeal. And anybody living in the Bahamas today, and many who are not living in the Bahamas, but from the Bahamas, would be totally aware of the 10 victims of the plane crash as the plane was about to approach landing San Andres, North Andros Airport. That story, self-explanatory, you know. And my good friend, I got a good friend. We call him Rev. You know, he's really the person that make things happen at the farm. Makes things, and not only him. I mean, he's the person overall responsible for coordinating what goes on at the farm and the farm band. And those people has been brothers and sisters to him. And I called him the other day, and I didn't know what to say, you know. But the whole country weeps and mourns. Due to that very disheartening event. And may all of their souls continue to rest in peace. And may their loved ones, all of them, be strengthened during this period of bereavement. So, Maritime Matters extends sincerest condolences to all of those persons that have passed in recent times and the persons that have passed even beyond. So our country endured quite a heavy sense of sorrow over this 53rd Independence Day celebration. Independence Week, Independence Period, Independence Month. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we engage discussion surrounding the Strait of Hormuz, the conflict surrounding the Strait of Hormuz, and the operational condition of our dearly beloved Port Dock. discussion surrounding these hot topics should include the following. The chaos over the opening slash closing slash opening slash closing again of the Strait of Hormuz. And those of you who don't know very well when I speak of the Strait of Hormuz, what I'm talking about, I'm talking about that bottleneck, that choke point that sits at the entrance slash exit of the Persian Gulf. That area that, if controlled by any individual country, can have a heavy impact on whether 20+% of oil products and 35-40% of what I think name what you put in the soil, fertilizer, soil fertilizers enter the rest of the world. So if there's a blockage of that strait for any reason, by anybody, the world will have to operate on 80% of available fuel products. That's heavy oil, bunker C, that's diesel, gasoline, and that also includes natural gas. And the world would have to operate on some 60%, 60 to 70% of fertilizer that the entire world needs for their trees and gardens and everything else that we use fertilizer for. And it's very, very needed worldwide. And if the world is reduced to that amount, then you know what happened. We got to share everything else. So where the ones who were getting it out of the Gulf got to get it from somewhere else. And it costs all the price to go up, etc., etc., etc. And so the Strait of Hormuz was deemed closed by the Iranians or by the state of Iran or the country of Iran. Once some things were happening that they were not happy with based on an agreement between Iran and the U.S. I'm not sure if Israel had a big part to play with the arrangement, but it was mainly between the U.S. and Iran. And of course, Israel was part of it because Iran made it a part that, the aggression that Israel is leashing or was lashing out against Lebanon would also have to stop. And I think it did for a time. Everything ceased because they had a 60-day ceasefire where no bombs would drop, this would not happen. And then some things happened and Iran decided, hey man, we this ain't part of what we agree on, so we can close the strait again. And of course, President Donald Trump decided they're not going to close the strait. They don't have the power to close that strait how they please. We had enough of that. And we're going to talk about some of the details of what happened as a result of that, because the strait is now closed again. For how long, we don't know. But we want to go into some details of what really took place surrounding the Strait of Hormuz over the past 3-4 days. And the impact that would have not only on the Persian Gulf area, but the entire world, including us here in the Bahamas. We want to talk a bit. We want to talk a lot about Porter's Key Dock. The availability of the use of Porter's Key Dock by active mail boats. And when I say active mail boats, because we have a lot of mail boats at Porter's Key Dock that cannot move, it cannot operate, the engines are not good, they haven't moved for years, but yet they sit at Porter's Key Dock. And we have other vessels other than mail boats. When I say mail boats now, you remember mail boat is a term not just for any vessel that goes to Porter's Key. Mail boat is a term that applies only to the vessels that actually has a contract, a mail bag contract with the government of Bahamas by way of the post office and the Ministry of Transport. So there's a contract that the government gives to various vessels for each family island to carry what they call the mail bag. And the mail bag in days gone by used to be an actual bag full of mail. Because remember now, we had no airports in those family islands in those days and stuff like that. Everything used to go by vessels, sailboats, then eventually motorized vessels, and then eventually now they got all motorized. Most of them got ramps. So it has morphed into what we have currently as vessels that carry boxes, containers, and vehicles, and they roll them on and roll them off and all the rest of that stuff, and it has really develop into so what we call the mail bag, the physical bag that causes those vessels to be known as mail boats, is no longer the item. Really what it is now is the government would give subsistence, monetary subsistence to vessels to make weekly routes to the various islands, and every island they go to, or they contract a vessel to go to that island, they would subsidize either the fuel costs or the maintenance costs, or however they want to use it. But they would have a fixed amount that route would receive from the government for doing the weekly runs, because the government wants the mail boats or wants vessels that are committed and obligated to go to those family islands, because the government understands, and always did understand, the importance of goods traversing between New Providence and the family islands. And we need to get away from that. And we could talk about that till I don't know when. But what I think we need to do, what I think we need to do is have vessels going directly to those family islands from Florida. And we have the types of vessels that could do it. We have the amounts of vessels that can do it, because most of them do it now. But we need that to be a consistent criteria for any boat that the government is going to subsidize, because we don't need the family islands to be getting freight out of Nassau, which is third-party freight, because they would have. Anybody been on Porter's Key Dock lately on a Monday or Tuesday or even Wednesday or almost any day you go on Porter's Key Dock, you get long lines of cargo vehicles, those big box trucks, other type of trucks from the various company, the food, the furniture, and those things wait for hours to get to their specific mailboat to put those items on, because it's so congested, because the demand has outgrown Porter's Key Dock. The demand has outgrown downtown Nassau. But yet, We're trying to make it work. And to add to all of this, we have a kind of blockage on the dock because we are allowing owners of carriers, whether they mail boats or just cargo ships that do charters and go to states and other islands and especially themselves on the western end. Plenty of them ain't no mail boat, but they're operating from Porter's Key like they are mail boats. Cheap, in some cases free. Well, ain't no enforcement collecting the money, let's put it that way, right? So they have not only been afforded the luxury, I want to say allowed, right? But I don't want to say allowed because sometimes, and we got to be real, right? Sometimes we have the entity responsible for regulating Prince George Dock, which means Porter's Key Dock, which is the port department and the port controller and his team, right? His deputies and assistants and his team, his dock master and all the rest of that, right? They have the designation by law to manage activities at Porter's Key Dock. But like everything else, they are only a department from a ministry, and a ministry belongs to a cabinet. So let's call it what it is. You have a set of people working in a department to regulate Porter's Key Dock. And when they go there to regulate, you get some ship owners. And we know I could call some names. And some of them are my good friends. You know, I've been in and out of the port for a while. I've been in and out of Porter's Key Dock. I know the runnings out there, right? I could tell you because I've been challenged by it when I was at the port. They will tell you straight and plain, oh boy, you ain't got no say right now. You know, one phone call and I ain't gonna worry about you. One phone call. And they would have direct links to calling the minister. And some of them have Prime Minister on speed dial. Right? And I can tell you this. And I told me no Prime Minister Philip Brave Davis only. I told me any Prime Minister in the past. All the way back to Sir Lyndon Oscar Penland. I could tell you this. They got them on speed dial because you know how politics go. Politics rely on these people's vessels to keep their family island constituencies happy. And some of these vessel owners have so much influence in those family island communities that the politicians want them on their team to keep the voting numbers on high, eh? And then this real, you know, y'all know, some of y'all out there know better than me what I'm talking about. It's just reality of things. So in some cases, those vessel owners, those mailboat owners, and even some of the cargo vessels that are not mailboat owners have more authority than the port controller. And I asking you, I'm telling you. And I know all the port controllers of the past. I was a deputy port controller for 5 years. And I know from what I speak. Some port controllers wouldn't even approach some vessel owners because they know these brothers got the PM on speed dial, the minister on speed dial, the chairman of the board on speed dial, and whatever else. Right? So while they would advise the minister that these people are doing erroneous business in Porter's Key, they got a boat there that don't move. They got a boat that about to sink and they wouldn't move it, and it sinks. They got cargo on the dock for months in containers and they wouldn't move the boxes. They put an officers in there with almost blocking traffic. And they do whatever they want. because they know that the port controller and his team hands are tied. Because they got more leverage with the bosses, who are the permanent secretaries and the minister and the prime minister, OPM officer, the prime minister, and all the rest of that. They have more leverage than the port controller when it comes to getting attention. So the poor port controller, well, I don't know if he got money, but he poor, right? He poor in the sense that he's been fully undermined when it comes to trying to do what he is charged to do by law. And I talk in this. I ain't asking nobody nothing. And please do call in if you see it a different way than I see it. And I want dare somebody to say it ain't like I say. Because I don't live this. And it is disgusting. I can tell you it's disgusting. Because when you are one of the what should be authority figures in government by being a head of department or by being a head of one of the uniform branches, like the custom controller, the director of immigration, the commissioner of police, the commodore of defense force. I want you to know they got people outside of your organization with more influence than you to the minister and the cabinet that you report to. And I like this been going on from time. Anybody living in this country and they ain't noticed, then I gotta feel sorry for you. Because it is what it is. And this ain't nothing to do with PLP and FNM and if COI get in, you think it'd be any different? No, because they could direct and dictate to the head of the department and head of these areas. Because every department is run by a piece of legislation known as an act. Every department. Road Traffic Act, Port Authority Act, Boat Registration Act, the Penal Code for the Police Act, the Defense Act, Defense Force Act, the Customs Management Act, Immigration Act. You name the area that a government waits for, and they have an act of parliament that is law in this country that they are engaged to work by. Because they can't just do whatever they want to do and be law unto themselves. No, it would have to be written and it have to be clear. And if it goes to court, it has to be weighed off. So even those in authority, be it the commissioner of police, the customs controller, even them have to comply with what is written. They can't do just what they want to do in contravention to what is written in that act. So their job is to enforce what the parliament put in place to be enforced in the country. And so when we talk about Porter's Key Dock, the port controller, his deputies, his dock master, etc., are charged with regulating Porter's Key. And it goes to a vessel that is a mailboat have rights to a dock space. A vessel that is non-operational should not be on the dock. A vessel that is a mailboat but not doing cargo transfer has to move and let the one that needs to take on cargo get to the dock. And so on and so forth. And I can tell you from Mr. Leon Flowers' days, and I know Mr. Leon Flowers because I started to work directly on him. He trained me, right? Me and Avi Sweeting when we went to take over the port. Mr. Leon Flowers was the port controller for somewhere near 50 years. He worked in the port. He's port controller for like 30 plus years, right? And he had Porter's Key Dock unlock. When he come to Porter's Key Dock, boat owners trembled. And I told him what I saw with my, well, I can't see it with nobody else on two eyes, right? With my own two eyes. I tell somebody there, I said, man, what you mean you see it with your own two eyes? Who else's eyes you can see it with? I had to get that one out, right? But guess what? Ben, Mr. Leon, you see, Mr. Leon Flowers came up through the PLP. And when certain ministers came in to run Ministry of Transport, there was no ship owner, no boat owner, no vessel owner that could call the minister and say, Mr. Flowers doing this and I need this to happen. Because the minister will tell him straight and plain, you better go through Mr. Flowers. Because Mr. Flowers had the level of support, not only from the minister, but also from the prime minister, Sir Lyndon Oscar Penland, that he could have been deemed untouchable. And that's why when I tell people he was one of my mentors, I say that from a place of understanding that that man controlled that port department. And he controlled those that were affiliated or that was supposed to be disciplined by the regulations of the port department. Because he had a foot inside the ring of politics. And those vessel owners could not have undermined him as a port controller. But of course, after Mr. Flowers was gone, the rest is history, eh? Because the other port controllers came in from the Royal Bahamas Defense, outside of Mr. Cyril Roker. And Roker's my boy, I could talk. Outside of Mr. Cyril Roker. Roker had his share of trouble too, right? But Cyril, you know how we go, right? But outside of Mr. Cyril Roker, every other port controller were former Defense Force officers. And so, of course, they would not have had the opportunity or the privilege of having their foot in the ring of politics. With the exception of, and I really shouldn't say that, with the exception of nobody, right? So I think I would go on and say that I think the closest person to have had his hand near the ring. I wouldn't even say his foot wasn't in the ring, right? But he was close. And that's former Defense Force Captain Anthony Allens, who became port controller. And, Anthony ain't doing too well today. Andy Yellow, man, I don't know if you're listening tonight, but Anthony's a good friend of mine. He's challenged in many ways, but he's going strong. And I know his family well and all the rest of that. But Anthony would have been the one with, I think, the most potential to have the authorities listen to him. So it was harder to undermine him than it was to undermine the others who didn't have that pull at that level. And today, we see what Porter's Key Dock is like. We go out there, and sometimes you can't even get on the dock because of the combustion. As my sister-in-law Brenda used to say, all kind of combustion, right? Right, Brenda? Brenda used to say, all kind of combustion going on. Man, I ain't want to go near that. Totally disorganized. Everybody doing what they want to do. And you ask, how could this be allowed? And if you really dig deep enough, you will see that there's a level of nepotism a level of influence, a level of politics, and I must say, a level of, unfortunately, a level of discomfort among those that are charged to regulate the activities at Porter's Dock, to the extent that it could be deemed discouraging to carry out your duties. And all because of those things like nepotism and politics and all the rest of that, right? And then we don't have to go into detail. We know how our country run. But it's so sad. And then we ask, is there an end to this? Is there an end to the vessel owners and operators placing those big containers wherever they want to place it on Porter's Key, leaving it there for months? Is there an end to vessels pulling up at the dock and sitting there for years and cannot even move? Excuse me, whether they were mail boats, are mail boats, cargo ships, old fishing vessels that don't move no more, old Haitian sloops that can no longer move, you name it. We got it going on at Porter's Key. Because Porter's Key is a dock that have a lot of space now. Now see, you all interrupting me. Who is calling me? Anyway, thanks for calling. Maritime Matters. Good night, caller.
Mr. Bain, how are you, sir?
I am in top shape, my friend. Boy, it's good to hear your voice. You always call him, but family thing. But I glad you called me. I hope you're on a topic which you know well. I know you used to be on Porter's Key. What's happening?
I am great, and I want to apologize to you for, I don't know if somewhat neglect, but I have been listening to you, but I don't know if I have become like the rest of them, want to now stay quiet. At my age, I should not.
No, man, you know how we roll. I know you can't. You ain't that kind of person. So
Yes.
Go right ahead, my friend.
In case you don't know, I will give you a bit of history. My mother was born a Bain.
Okay.
She married into McKinsey. Now, I don't dwell on the Bain too much.
Yeah, no, I didn't know that, but I'm happy to hear that.
I hate to know that my mother born a Bain like Herbie Bain.
Yeah, our mutual friend.
Herbie Bain.
Our mutual friend from Auckland.
Yes, I hate to know that, but
why you hate to know that?
I have to live with it.
Yeah, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Go right ahead, man.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, Herbie's a good guy.
Very good guy, family man.
Absolutely.
He's poppy now.
Yes. He finally made it to that level of poppy. He joined us. He joined you and I.
He's a junior now. He's not a poppy like me.
No, he's a junior man. He fresh in the business, and you only got one to call him Poppy. So let's get off our boy case, man.
although he has this white beard, he have to sit small.
Yes.
Until his name is called.
Yeah, when he around me and you, yeah.
Haven't said that.
Yes, sir.
I must salute you. As you alluded to one of your mentor, Mr. Leon Flowers.
Oh yes, that's the man.
Being one of my great customers when I start my career in 1984.
Okay.
And as I don't frequent Porter's Key like I used to, because of health reason, and I am so conscious of health, knowing my career. But I often wonder, where is the leadership in terms as to what's going on Portuguese. Old derelict vehicle. You have a freighter boat on the eastern end
Yes.
of Portuguese. Now, it's been there more than maybe 7 years.
Yeah, that's a staple right there.
More than 7 years, maybe more.
It's been underwater now for about 2 or 3 years, eh?
And I'm asking the question, where is the leadership? You could say what you want, but I'll say this. I'll go on the limb and say this.
Mm-hmm.
If Lieutenant Commander Herbie Bain was controller of port, some heads would have ruled. Would you agree with that?
No.
You don't agree?
No. I know Herbie better than most, right? And I know you know him a little better than me, but Herbie and I are like two peas in one pod. If I was the controller of when I was deputy port controller, and if I was port controller, there's nothing you can do when you got some of these vessel owners have the prime minister on speed dial. See, the politics is a big part of this. I can tell you this.
Well, let me. Okay, that may be beyond my pay grade.
And Herbie will tell you himself. He will be frustrated.
I hope he's listening, and I wish he would call in.
He probably,
I believe it would have been a fight. I have that much confidence in him that it would have been a fight. But let me just say this. Mr. Leon Flowers, my homeboy, one of my good clients, he leave a legacy.
Oh, yeah.
E.J. Bow.
Yep.
Price control. He leave his legacy.
Well, he leave his legacy on Aaron Bailey and Hawksbill High Voice, and then when he went to price control, he left another legacy.
For those of the audience who don't know and familiar with history, I don't want to digress from your subject matter, but I just want to show the effectiveness of leadership and legacy.
Yeah.
And I just want to use this is an analogy I'm using. You can say so much about Mr. Loftus Roker.
Oh, yeah.
All you have to do is call his name.
Mm-hmm.
And when you call his name, the nation shake, right?
Absolutely.
How can you forget? How can you not forget the Reverend C. W. Sanders?
Oh, yeah.
In religion.
Yeah.
Are you following me?
I with you 1,000 times plus. You're absolutely on point.
We can say much as we want.
Mm-hmm.
Before he demised Dr. Miles Monroe.
Oh, yeah.
What am I saying? Why is it that we are not getting this? Why we are not getting this same respect like those names that I call the man that respect, regardless of who is in the chair? Why? What is going on? Is this a conspiracy? Has we sold out? Has we compromised ourselves? What is going on? That's the question.
The thing is, the names that you called, if they were in power today, or if they were the people that the port controller had to report to, we wouldn't have this problem.
Then I want another one in the jet. We had some females who also serve with distinction. We must say it. We must be, I don't want to be biased, but like I said, I don't want to digress from your subject matter. But I'm just trying to paint a picture on the influence that they had. And when they speak, the nation listens. And we have some great females who really serve this country. When you look at Janet Bostwick, who still lives today.
Number one.
I have highly great respect for that sister. I shouldn't say sister. I should say my mother, because her and my mother basically almost the same age. When you look at a lady that I used to serve her husband here. I used to serve her husband. She don't know. She maybe can pay me some. I can use right now. Mrs. Elma Garraway. You remember her?
Yes, yes.
Who served in education.
Yeah, teacher. She was a head teacher. Distinguished.
When you look at Miss Ivy Dumont, who served in education,
with
and
distinction.
when we look at the first principal, did you attend Aaron Bailey?
Yeah, Miss Butler, the big B.
Where we talking about Highbury High now?
Yeah, Highbury High and Aaron Bailey, because when I went there, she was still there.
Mistress Juanita Butler.
Yeah, Juanita Butler.
I mean, the nation needs to know these people. When they speak, the country listen.
Oh, yeah.
Why is it that we don't have that same influence today? That's the question. I don't want to get into no debate. I would like for you to please, your audience, to please help me to understand. I'm over 70 now. I'm getting old.
Yep.
To help me to understand, I would like for Lieutenant Commander Wavy Bain to call in. Why is it that we don't have that same influence like those names I call, and many more names, many more names that I can call with influence. But why is it we're not getting that today? I'll hang up and listen.
All right, my brother. Thank you so much for calling. And Dr. P is on point, ladies and gentlemen. He is so very much on point. And as we move back to Porter's Key Dock, as I was saying before he called in and expanded on it, the port controller and his team really, over the years, had no sting, eh? The sting was in that speed dial to the politicians. And I recall, and I'll kind of answer Dr. P with this, right? I recall a time when I was deputy port controller. On numerous occasions, we would have jet ski operators going to their MPs to defend them. And when we had the meeting for their trial at the port department, under the oversight of the Port Authority Board chairman, who was a female at the time. Dr. P talking about females. This was a female at the time. Miss Daphne Duncombe Cooper. She will rig them over the coals. She will suspend them. She will do what she needs to do to get them in line. And they would bring their MPs, who were lawyers in some cases, to try and defend them, saying they depend on these jet skis to that's their bread and butter. You're taking food or they mouth. You're doing that time. They are menace. When they get on those beaches, they forget that's their bread and butter. They forget how to fall in line with order. And I've watched many MPs leave there unable to help. Well, I wouldn't say unable to help, but unable to overcome with the losses. Because Miss Daphne Duncombe Cooper was not having it. And the word got out. And I was like, henchman. I would be the one to bring all the documentation and all the reports and put everything together. And it was a good thing to me to see order restored in the jet ski world. And then there was a time when the ferry boat operators, they had all kind of meetings on me because I told them the life jackets that they were trying to pass inspection with were for children. And the type of people that they are moving from Prince George Wharf over to Paradise Island near the new bridge, the bottom of the new bridge where they would carry the passengers from the cruise ships to Paradise Island. These people were bigger than I was. And so they had a big problem because to buy an adult life jacket cost them an additional $70, $80. Back then, that was a couple dollars, right? Because some of them needed like 200 life, maybe not 200, okay, 80 and 90 life jackets, right? Because they had to have a life jacket on their vessel for every passenger they want to carry. Because when you think about a ferry boat, which is really not very stable to begin with in some cases, right? Having 40 heifers, well, 40 adults, right? And you know, some of those tourists, much of those tourists would be slim. I call them heifers, right? So they got 40 of them on their ferry boat. And there was a situation where one of those boats sank because somebody crossed them in another boat and made a big wake. And all the tourists went to one side because some was on top and some to the bottom, and the Corusco sank. And I call the name deliberately, right? The Corusco sank. But unfortunately, nobody died. Nobody had on a life raft, no life jacket. But there was a Canadian warship at the time on dock number 28 or Pier 28 at the very end of Prince George Dock. And that's where the incident happened. And those persons of that Navy ship put their boat in the water. Some of them dive in the water because, and I think we had slack tide, so the tide wasn't that strong. Everything was like aligned so that nobody would die, right? Because I could tell you if that boat sank there with all those people and most of them can't swim and the tide was pulling them away, like that tide up in this be strong sometimes. I could tell you, I know about the tide, right? And nobody died. But for a boat that is leaving Prince George Wharf, they are basically in deep water. Nobody can stand in that water from the time they leave Prince George Wharf until they reach Paradise Island. If somebody was to fall into the water, there's no way they would be able to stand up. So if they can't swim, they basically get drowned, right? So my thing was, they need to have a life jacket that once they're in the water, that life jacket will keep their heads above the water so they could breathe, whether they can swim or not. Even if they hit their head going into the water, the life jacket will upright them. But these B-class life raft, because we need A-class life raft for adults, right? These B-class life raft at all, they just had them for show. And they would think that that's adequate because as far as they're concerned, nothing could go wrong. So they went to Mr. Tennyson Wells, who was the Minister of Transport at the time. They said to Minister Wells, this deputy port controller is trying to cost us so much money. He wants us to get all these things that ain't necessary, and especially life raft. And so somehow Minister Wells came to the port department to see the port controller on a matter. And while he was in there, he brought that up. And the port controller called me in the room. Mr. Bain, come. And then the port controller was Harvey Sweeten. That's my boy, right? But he was port controller. I was his deputy. He called me in the room. He said, yeah, Mr. Wells, this is Mr. Bain. I'm Mr. Bain. I've been getting a lot of complaints about the life raft, the life jacket that these people are being told that they have to buy. Is that legislated that that they have to have this particular type? Because the legislation, I assume, only said they need a life raft, a life jacket. So, boy, I say, you know what? I don't know if I could win this. Here's a lawyer, Mr. Tennyson Wells, and he getting by the book, right? And I know the book didn't say that. So I say, well, so 1 second. I go on next door to my office, and I had an A-class, a B-class, and a C-class, and a vest, what is used for jet ski. I had everything in my office. And I bought the A-class and B-class out, and I gave it to him. I gave him the B-class. I said, Mr. Wells, could you put this on for me, sir? Boy, and may Tennyson's soul rest. But Tennyson Wells is one of my mentors. I could talk with him like this. Cleveland and them, they know I had that respect for their daddy, right? So Mr. Wells, I said, Mr. Wells, and plus he was a representative for Bamboo Town, and I grew up in Bamboo Town, so I know him from there too. I said, Mr. Wells, put this on for me, please, sir. Man, he looked at that little thing and he grabbed that and he said, well, you want me to put this on? This can't fit me. I'm Mr. Bain. I said, all right, so what about this one? He said, nah, this more like it. I said, well, okay, that's the A class, that's the B class. I said, the one they have on their boats is that same little one which you say you wouldn't even attempt to put on. I said, that's what they want the tourists to use if the boat sink. And from that aspect, Mr. Wells said, Mr. Bain, you don't have to worry about this no more. I'll fix them. And I never hear from the ferry boat drivers about that no more. And then one time, boy, I remember Mr. Wells called me to his office and he had the ferry boats in there again. And they had one thing they were saying, and when I came in there and he asked me to explain, and I explained, not one of them could say anything against what I said. And he said, well, gentlemen, Mr. Bain is here. Any questions? Because this is what you all tell me. All of them had their mouth pin up. And so I think that is the kind of leadership, Dr. P, that we need in this country, where once you demonstrate to them or show up and tell them the other side of the story, they will shut their people down. The people who come into them because they know ICE one is generals or ICE this or ICE that. And that leader will shut them down based on principle and based on law. Now, do we have a minister of transport? See, now we have a new minister of transport, We have a new minister of transport. This is South Andres, man. And I would want to give him the opportunity, because I think he means well, to demonstrate that he's going to err on the side of law and safety when it comes to Portuguese Dock and those boat owners. Now, of course, he has a boss. And they may decide, we ain't checking for him. We can call the PM. But, it's a PM too. He worked at the PM for the first 5 years, eh? So Minister Lundy, I think, is in the kind of position where we could have a new leaf turned over for Portuguese Dock as far as bringing semblance and order to Portuguese Dock. I think that the port controller and his deputies and assistants and senior personnel, dockmaster, etc., may be able to, at this point where there's a change in the ministry, get the new minister while he's fresh. And I suppose, him being from South Andres, he would want to see things go right. So let's jump on him now and try and bring some semblance and order to what that chaos that we know happening at Portuguese Dock. And I want to talk some more about Portuguese Dock, but let me just move to the. We only take one break today because we almost finished. I know, Brother P, I'm glad you called. I'm glad you called because you helping me to open this can of worms that we need to move through. And as we move to our first break, I'd like to let you know that you're listening to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Payne, and you're listening to Love 97 FM as we speak about the Strait of Hormuz and Portuguese Dock. Both of them chaotic.
At Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited, we offer first-class maritime security services throughout the Bahamas and the wider Caribbean. As experts in maritime security, we specialize in production of ISPS assessments and plans, verification audits, certified familiarization training, and port security consultancy, just to name a few. Our services also include provision of a security force to maintain all required ISPS facility security compliance. For all your maritime security needs, visit us today in Nassau at our East Street South location or in Freeport in the Kipling building. Call us at 392-3515 or follow us on all social media platforms. Bahamas Maritime Connection, your leader in maritime security. Let's help you make the connection. At One-on-One Pharmacy, our friendly staff is ready to serve you. Visit us today for all your prescription and over-the-counter needs at our East Street South or Charles Sanders Highway locations. We're open Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and from 9 to 4 on Sundays. In a rush? Send your refill scripts online at oneononepharmacy.com or ask about our convenient pickup service. One-on-One Pharmacy, providing personal health care with people at heart.
In the morning sun, I'll be sitting at the evening sun, watching the ships roll in. Then I'll watch them roll away again. Sitting on the dock, watching the tide roll away. Sitting on the dock of the bay.
Welcome back. You are listening to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. And we have a brand new producer for Maritime Matters tonight in the person of Mr. Tyler Delancey. Tyler is keeping things ticking, rocking, rolling, and know how to go in. So I thank you, Brother Tyler. And let's keep ticking on, my brother. You're listening to Maritime Matters, and on this show, we talk maritime. Maritime Matters airs weekly at 17:05, that's 5:05 p.m. every Tuesday here on Love 97 FM. The primary purpose of our show is to sensitize Bahamians of opportunities in the maritime sector. And, of course, we also cover current maritime issues from the domestic, and from the domestics, we be dealing with Portuguese Dock, and international. Again, we're dealing with Strait of Hormuz feeds. The phone number to reach us, should you wish to get in on the discussion during the show, is 326-8255. That's 326-8255. Another number you can reach us on is 322-3633. 322-3633. To hear a replay of the show or any of our previous shows, simply hit us up at any time via our YouTube page. That's Maritime Matters Bahamas. Just like we say, I love you, Maritime Matters Bahamas. Just go to YouTube on your electronic device and type into the search box, Maritime Matters Bahamas. So let's talk maritime. We go back to our hot topics for the night. And the first one being, of course, how much time we got? Lord, we ain't got much time left. But we'll see what we could say real quick about the Strait of Hormuz, because we got to get back to Portuguese Dock, right? But I know some of y'all won't call about Portuguese Dock, but some of y'all maybe even want to call about the Strait of Hormuz. What we know is that in recent days, very short days, few days ago, the Strait of Hormuz was opened based on an agreement between the U.S. and Iran. And I think, to some extent, Israel was involved in that agreement, eh? I think. But even if they were not involved in the agreement, they were part of the agreement. So, apparently what happened was the U.S. strayed off a bit from the agreement, and Iran got a little disturbed by it and decided we can close the strait again until we could get this agreement adhered to by the U.S., right? And so it deemed the strait closed. And President Trump said, not a day like it. The strait will remain open if I have anything to do with it. And so, that being said, Iran decided they're going to, now remember now, the strait have a couple channels. There are three major channels. There's one coming right along the coast of Iran. There's one in the middle, and there's one going along the coast of Oman, because the strait runs directly between Iran to the north and Oman to the south. So what I think the U.S. decided is we're going to utilize the passage along the coast of Oman, and Iran could do whatever they want to do with that side up there. But Iran decided, no. We ain't having it. Even if you try to use that, we can still reach the ships with our ballistic missiles and all the rest of that. So they sent 2 ballistic missiles at some ships, and boom, boom, boom. Damage happened. 1 man got killed and all the rest of that. And the U.S. decided, okay, that's how you want to play it. And then there was a big bombardment of targets in Iran. For many hours during the first night, for many hours during the second night, and the third night was even bigger. So Iran couldn't get no missiles off because the U.S. was just piling the tons of bombs on them. And that was the last 3 days. And then Iran was able to poke his head up, and they landed some monster missiles on U.S. bases in some of the neighboring countries like Bahrain and Kuwait and UAE, and they went as far as Jordan, landing some attacking some U.S. bases. So Iran decided, we said we'd be close, and we mean it. So it is difficult, very, very difficult, if not impossible, for the U.S. or any other country in the world to stop Iran from sending a bomb at a ship that's coming so close to it. Have to come that close to get in or out of the Persian Gulf. Because they only got to set up, they could use a RPG, a rocket-propelled grenade, and put that on the shoulder and send that at a ship. That's easy to do. And as we all know, the Iranians are living underground, right? Some are living on top of the ground, and some of them are getting killed and whatnot. But most of them are living underground during this term of war. They have tunnels after tunnels after tunnels. They got weapons after weapons in those tunnels and around. And so it's almost impossible to mash them up, per se. Like how you could mash up people in other countries that don't have underground tunnels and that are not very mountainous like Iran. And that's what makes it so difficult. And Iran, because of the physical, geographical state of the physical geography, the contours, the mountains, and the fact that they are making their own weapons, although they are not big, heavy, but they only need drones and like I say, RPGs and maybe ballistic missiles. So don't take that much for them to launch. They pull one from underground, bring it up top, and launch it. So the U.S. was successful in those 3 nights of ensuring that Iran didn't get any bomb off. But that is not sustainable. The U.S. or no other country in the world, because the U.S. is number 1 when it comes to military strength. No country in the world could sustain night after night after night, putting down all those weapons, because at the end of the day, you can run out of weapons. And any ship coming through that strait can still be right near Iran. So Iran could say, we can sit and wait. When they get tired, they can let us know. And you could have ships operate for a week after the U.S. figured they didn't do enough bombing. And Iran figured the U.S. done had enough. 2 weeks, a month, 2 months. And they set up one ballistic missile and hit a ship, and all the rest of the ships can get scared because the insurance ain't gonna pay for them to go through there no more, and they ain't doing it. So that strait is so easy for Iran to be deemed close that it is almost impossible to stop them from closing it. And it happened to control over 20% of the world's supply of so much needed oil products and gas products. And some 35-40%, like I said earlier, of fertilizers that the world really wants and needs. Because without it, the price of the crops are going to go up. The price of food is going to go up. The price of fuel is going to go up. And so we're in a predicament right now where it can be expected after what's going on now that our fuel price is going to go back up again. And probably past $10 and probably past $15 because is there an end in sight? You know, they had a ceasefire for 60 days, 2 months. And the first money over here, and they going back to closing it again. And war and bombs flying all over the place again. So the chances of curbing this escalation has gotten worse. And as they were saying prior to the signing of that agreement, President Trump has no off-ramp. Off-ramp meaning there's no way out of this. Because Iran is always going to emerge as the controllers of the Strait of Hormuz. And Iran started to charge money for the Strait of Hormuz. Any vessel wanting to pass, then you pay us. If you don't pay us, you get bombed. And so, while all this bombing was going on by the U.S. to say, we stopping Iran, we ain't letting them get nothing off, and which they did, the U.S. is that powerful, President Trump decided, we are now going to levy a fee for every vessel that wants to pass through the strait, because we can have a naval blockade and we can give you the protection. So if we giving you the protection and we have a blockade and all that going on, you got to pay us for that. And then, of course, over the last 24 hours, Mr. Trump has brought up. He said, okay, we can charge him. Because what it was is initially, the United Nations, the rest of the world, was saying to Iran, also the U.S. was saying to Iran, you cannot be charging people to use the passageway that's supposed to be free for navigation. And Iran kind of like, don't care, well, they bombing us and they taking over us and the rest of the world ain't trying to help us, so we don't care about all that, right? And so when President Trump decided, well, you know, we doing all of this, so we got to charge a fee. The rest of the world said the same thing. Well, you can charge the free. That's supposed to be free to navigate. Freedom of navigation. It shouldn't be no tax applied. And then they say, you know what? if they're going to levy a tax to go through the Strait of Hormuz, then why can't China levy a tax for those wanting to pass through the strait between China and Taiwan? And why can't there be a tax levied for those that want to use the Strait of Malacca? And why can't there be a tax levied for those who want to use the English Channel? And you know that extend up to Istanbul, what that one name up there where they go through to get to the Black Sea? All of these are bottlenecks that ships pass free of charge. Because according to UNCLOS, the United Nations Law of the Sea, the United Nations Convention on Law of the Sea, you cannot charge people, and I used to see a lot of people, I'm Captain Bain, why is it that we don't charge them when they come through our waters? And then people polluting our waters and they be doing this and that. Yeah, we could fine them if we find them. We could fine them a fee if we can bring them guilty of polluting our waters. Because we do have pollution regulations that can apply to shipping. We could have them come to court and pay a fine. But as far as free to go through our waters for navigational purpose, no, we can't charge them. Because you know what freight will cost. My time down here ready? Do you know what it'll cost for a ship to leave China, come through the Malacca Straits, and go through the Bahamas, and pass through the Florida Strait and pass through? You know what it'll cost if they have to pay a levy every time they go through one of those bottleneck areas? For your cargo, for your freight? See, right now it's free. So your cargo basically only costs what it costing them in fuel and maintenance and manpower on board ships and things like that. They factor all of it because the ship got to pay for keep itself going plus make a profit, eh? Now, if they got to add to that, every time they go through bottleneck area, they got to pay additional, and they have to put that on your bill. And the world is aware of that, and the world is saying we need that, right? But the Strait of Hormuz, Iran was collecting, I think, must be $2 million a ship or something like that. Every time a ship come through, you got to pay them. And the U.S. decide, okay, Iran ain't no longer in charge, we in charge now, so pay us a couple $1 million a ship. And then the president of the U.S. decided, no, we ain't going to do that no more. We can't be like them, right? But it is a fact and it's going on. So we can conclude that the war in the Gulf has been tremendously escalated and the Strait of Hormuz will not be expected to resume what we consider normal operations for a significant period ahead. That said, we can expect that oil commodities will reach unprecedented heights. We were up to what? Almost $9 the other day? So we can expect now that it seemed to be a definite Iran will hold that horse. See, the U.S. is saying to Iran, you all have boats coming in with y'all, with paying y'all, that y'all allowing in. And we have a problem with that. Y'all making money. So I open it up free for everybody. And Iran now is at a position, I think, based on what's going on. They're at a position now where they don't have the luxury to even charge no boat to say we can let you all come through. Because they're being bombarded left, right, and center. So their thing is, we can make sure no boat go through. No boat can pass through here. And that can cause, see, Iran knows that once boats can't come in and out of that Gulf, that tighten the noose on fuel worldwide. That tighten the noose on everything. And it also impacts those countries inside the Gulf. Like United Arab Emirates. We call it Dubai, right? and Abu Dhabi, like Bahrain, like Saudi Arabia, like Kuwait, like Qatar, like Iraq, all of those countries get their cargo. All those big container ships, all those cruise ships, they come through the Strait of Hormuz to get to them. Now those ships can't come in and out. So what you think happening in those countries now? Dubai could probably hardly have tourists in there now. They could start, because they don't have no way to replace the volume of things those ships bring. Remember now, ships carry more than 90% of cargo around the world. So if you're getting less than 90% of your cargo to your country, could you imagine the damage going on now? The cost for the little bit of things, most of your shelves empty in the food store, although you got plenty of money, because I want you to know these people in these places are rich. They're rich. But if you ain't got the product, how you can buy it? Your money don't mean nothing. And so these countries are having continuous meetings with the U.S. and President Trump and the people he sent out there to do negotiations. They meet with them all the time and say, look, we hurting. You can't do this to Iran because they're doing this to us. And the rest of the world is suffering too. Even here in the Bahamas, we feeling it, right? And our power-related bills will rise in the Bahamas too. So we're looking at our light bill now and be like, boy, it's never been this high. I got news for y'all. It's about to get higher. And it's going to be higher and higher all the time until this thing resolves. And I'll say, in view of these developments, should our country, the Bahamas, continue to pursue investing in LNG, liquefied natural gas? Because LNG, more than 20% of LNG also comes from the Gulf. So the price of LNG is going to escalate. But yet we talk about putting a $200 million LNG regasification plant at Clifton Pier. Ground broke this week. Do we want to press on with that? In view of the projection that moving down the line, the price of that LNG is going to go. Why are we not looking, or are we not looking at solarizing the Bahamas? See, you got to put a price on the sun. So we should be seriously considering right now switching fully to solarized energy instead of LNG. You mean that's how I get to end the show? You look like nobody want to call. So I guess we can take this up next week. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to Maritime Matters. We are on the brink of our time. I'd like to thank my producer, Mr. Tyler Delancey. I would like to thank my sponsors, Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited, Island Care Pharmacy up there in Freeport, and 101 Pharmacy here in Nassau. I'd like to thank my great caller, Dr. P, for assisting and shedding light on what needs to happen in this country when you're talking about putting things in line with the way they should be, specifically the operations at Porter's-Key Dock. And of course, I want to thank you, dear listener, for continuing to listen in to Maritime Matters as we continue to move forward. And with that, I say good night to my good old Annie Mae. And as always, Maritime Matters, tick, 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 out.